So this is going to be a video on kind of road safety and asking the question, are dual carriageway time trial courses dangerous? Now, I've listened to a couple of podcasts recently where individuals have stated that they brought up the UK time trialing scene and stated that, oh yeah, the events take place on these dual carriageway courses and they're extremely dangerous. And these individuals have kind of stated that like a fact. Now, if that's just your personal opinion that, oh, I've taken part in these events before and I've decided that, yeah, I don't think this is a safe thing to be taking part in and I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to do that anymore, that's absolutely fair enough. But to just state it as a fact, yeah, I didn't like that, and I also got the impression that neither of these individuals had taken part in any sort of time trialing event before. They're both from the UK, so I had to look up, see if they had a CTT profile. I found their names on British Cycling, so I know I was putting their name in right, and I couldn't find a CTT profile for either of them. So it's the position where they've never done a single carriageway, they've never done a dual carriageway time trial, but then they're stating that, okay, this event is dangerous. Whereas someone else who's stated that they don't like dual carriageway courses is Dan Bigham. But I perfectly respect his opinion because Dan's an extremely accomplished time trialist who's done lots of dual carriageway courses, lots of single carriageways, and lots of closed circuit courses. So he's able to make an informed choice and be like, okay, yeah, I don't like the dual carriageway stuff, and I prefer not to take part in it. He's not stating it as a fact. He might think they're more dangerous than single carriageway and closed circuit. He'd have a lot more of a nuanced opinion around it because obviously he's taken part in both events, so he preferred to take part in like a national championships on a dual carriageway rather than missing it, even though he doesn't like riding on a dual carriageway. And also he'd when it comes to this, he'd offer an alternative solution. So it's not just, oh, this is dangerous, what's the solution? If you just say this is dangerous, you're not offering a solution. What's the solution? We just get rid of time trialing altogether. Whereas Dan's always has an opinion where he's like, okay, yeah, I don't like the dual carriageway courses. I think we should move to more closed circuit courses. Based on his and Joss's experience, that's the sort of riding that they prefer, and they think it's safer, and the logistics of moving all the cycling time trials events in the year to closed circuit courses like Croft, Thruxton, Darley Moor. I don't think that's logistically possible, but at least it's a solution that could be implemented over the next few years if we decide that, yeah, we don't want to be racing on dual carriageways anymore. But just simply stating that this is dangerous and no more than that. Because I've done dual carriageway courses and I've done single carriageway courses last year, and did I think a dual carriageway course was any more dangerous than a single carriageway? Not really. Do I think it's safe? No. But to be honest, I don't think any riding in the UK is necessarily safe. Like even just getting out for a training ride, I'd say it's pretty ridiculous, but I ride pretty defensively, and most, if not every training ride, there's going to be a strange incident with a car where I have to make some evasive action to prevent something that could escalate into an incident, and that's just a reality of riding in the UK, and it's pretty sad, really. But that's the world we live in. And comparing the races that I've done on single carriageways and dual carriageways to that sort of riding, I don't think they're necessarily any more dangerous. I think the main thing, you think, okay, a dual carriageway is 2 lanes of 70-mile-an-hour traffic, and that's what's going to be dangerous with if we're riding at 20-30 mile an hour, so there's going to be a 40-50 mile an hour speed differential between the cars approaching us and us on the carriageway. But you've got to also consider the fact that a dual carriageway isn't the same as just a regular B road. They're constructed in a way where most of the time they're really straight, and if there are bends in the dual carriageway, they're very gradual ones, so that the visibility of the carriageway itself is maintained. And with riding in the UK, it's mandatory to have a rear light. We've got a big yellow number on our back. Visibility should be good. And often events are called off because of poor weather conditions, poor visibility. We take that seriously, and events will be cancelled for that sort of reason. So visibility of the riders on the carriageway should actually be quite good. So a car's not going to be going at 70 mile an hour and then a cyclist is going to appear out of nowhere. People don't appear out of nowhere. That's always just an excuse that's used by someone who wasn't paying attention, and most likely is a person who would cause an incident. A car driving should be able to see every single rider in plenty of time and be able to not have to take any evasive action. They're not going to have to swerve. They'll have plenty of time to decide check my mirrors, move out into the overtaking lane and pass the rider. And also these events on dual carriageways try and take place at times where the traffic is relatively low. Obviously you're not going to have zero cars on the road, but the traffic flow is significantly reduced compared to you're not riding in rush hour, I tell you that. So these cars, a lot of the time, they might have to, the worst case scenario, they're going to have to slow down before they move into the overtaking lane to go past you. But that should be expected. A dual carriageway isn't two 70 mile an hour lanes. Slow moving traffic, such as cyclists, should be expected. What about an AA van that's towing a car and they're capped to 45, 50 mile an hour? So a car that's approaching them at 70 mile an hour is going to have to slow down for them. They're not gonna plow into them and be like, oh, they came out of nowhere. No, that's ridiculous. Everyone can see that's ridiculous. But then the idea of them having to slow down for a cyclist seems silly to some people, but it shouldn't be any different. I think that's more of an issue with the culture. But yeah, I don't think overtakes from cars behind are necessarily. Of course, it's all down to the car at the end of the day. Like I don't have. That's the main issue. You don't have control over what that car's doing, and if an incident does occur, it's going to occur at higher speed. But even on a regular B road where they're often national speed limit anyways, where cars are going 50, 60 miles an hour, a collision is going to have a high chance of fatality. But I don't know if those collisions are any more likely to occur on a dual carriageway compared to a single carriageway. Now, comparing to single carriageways, like in some ways they're better, in some ways they're worse. So for the most part, I feel like on a dual carriageway, people have plenty of time to spot the rider and make their manoeuvre to go past. And there should be there might be a little bit of traffic coming in the overtaking lane, so they have to wait before they move out. But that overtaking lane is there that they can move into it and go past. Whereas if you're on a single carriageway B road, a car's obviously going to have to move into the opposing lane to make the overtake a lot of the time, and that's when dangerous manoeuvres occur a lot of the time, especially just when you're out doing some training rides where people will go for a dangerous overtake, either passing you way too close because they don't want to go into the other lane, or passing way too far into the other lane when there's an oncoming car, and then they have to swerve back in, and then it's more of a higher chance of cars colliding. It's either we get hit or there's a car collision right in front of us. Either one can be extremely dangerous for us as vulnerable. Right? It can be dangerous on the cars. They can still get hurt, but we haven't got a 1-ton metal box protecting us. So we're a lot more vulnerable than they are. We are vulnerable road users, and that's what cars just don't seem to respect. Just on your regular ride, they'll just do silly things and swerve into you and brake check you and stuff. It's like, do you not understand that if an incident occurs, there's a really high chance of me getting hurt? Nothing's going to happen to you. But yeah, that's just the culture at the moment, which really isn't very good. But I guess that's a different discussion. So the overtaking of cars, I feel like it's probably the same between dual carriageways and single carriageways. There's pros and cons to both. But yeah, and then think about single carriageways. There's also issues of, okay, you've got these side roads of cars that could be pulling out at any moment, and a big issue with cars on the road is that they'll really misjudge your speed. So they'll pull out thinking that you're going quite slowly, and they're pulling out and travelling at 15, 20 miles an hour, and you're going to close that gap to them extremely quickly, so you have to get on the brakes and take evasive action. That's not going to happen on a dual carriageway, because you've got these slip roads where, first of all, the car's getting up to speed, So they're getting up to speed, so they can either they'll either get past you, they'll see you coming, and they can either get up to speed and get past you by going fast enough on the slip road, or they slow down for you. They tuck in and then move into the overtaking lane, which is also equally fine. Whereas I feel like the risk of the risk of people doing things that are more rash. The roads are a lot more predictable on dual carriageways in that respect. Whereas single carriageways, people can be pulling out all the time from the side roads, and that can be extremely dangerous too. Also need to consider how we're riding our bikes as well, and thinking about like what was the most dangerous course that I did this year. So I did 5 single carriageway courses and 4 dual carriageway courses. Like I say, I don't think any of those events were necessarily that dangerous, but I'm thinking, okay, what was potentially the most dangerous event? And it's not just for argument's sake that I think it was a single carriageway course that I did. It was like a very technical single carriageway course, where it was actually the national 25-mile championships, where we also had like some motorbikes out on the road to do some sort of traffic control for like if they stopped a few riders, they could stop cars. To be honest, I don't see how that helps. To be honest, I think just like don't mess with the system. Just let the cars go as they may. Like we're always going to have little incidents that are occurring with cars doing silly overtakes and such. But you're not going to be able to control all of that. So just kind of, and if you do control it, it might result in like a bottleneck further up. So if they're trying to control traffic, they're not letting cars pass, and loads of traffic gets backed up behind the rider, and it might have been better, and then it gets to a safer point, but then the cars don't go past, sort of thing, and then it just messes with the traffic flow. That could also lead to riders making more dangerous manoeuvres. They see there's a car that's wanting to cross the carriageway and turn right, but then there's no room for them to slip through on the left, and they'll do something like go down the middle of the road of a car that's expecting to turn right as soon as that they see that there's no more traffic coming. They're not looking behind them to see someone overtaking them on their right hand side. I guess there's more slower moving traffic on the single carriageway roads. There's people turning, people stopping. There's more likelihood of an incident occurring where someone's going to do something dangerous to keep going at a faster speed. Whereas on a dual carriageway, you're a lot less likely to experience that sort of thing, other than like at the roundabouts. But they're unlikely to be clogged up as well. I'd say they're pretty balanced as to if they're equally dangerous. I don't think either of them are super safe, but I wouldn't say either of them are necessarily that dangerous compared to just regular riding. I don't think either of them are more dangerous than the regular riding that I have to do in the UK. Now, comparing to some other events, comparing it to road racing, again, I'd say it's dangerous in its own way. It's also taking place on open roads for the most part. If you're doing a regional A or a Nat B race, that's going to be taking place on open roads, and yeah, a lot of it's coming down to the riders doing something silly when we're obviously meant to stay in our lane, but with the sizes of the bunch, people are looking to move up in any way they can, and therefore they're moving into the other carriageway to move up, which is obviously pretty dangerous because there could be oncoming traffic, and if there is oncoming traffic, they might not have time to get back into their lane to get out the way. But that happens in every single UK road race you take part in. And is it safe? No. But is it going to stop? No. It's meant to. The commissaires can only control it so much that it's always just going to happen, I think. And also, as I was mentioning, with potential like bottlenecks that are occurring in the traffic, that might happen a tiny bit in a time trial. That happens a huge amount in the UK road racing, just because we have this big convoy that's protecting the peloton, but then we have the cars that are backed up behind that, and that just increases the risk of having that one individual that's really impatient and decides that they're gonna overtake us all, and so you get civilians that get stuck in the convoy, and then they're going to do something dangerous like try and overtake the entire peloton, and that could be really dangerous as well. Is that more dangerous than the time trialing? I don't know. because you're surrounded, but then there's also the danger of crashing. Crashing is extremely more likely to happen in a road race or a crit race compared to a time trial, just because you're around tens of nervous people. But I guess that's different as well, because that's not necessarily comparing to the road safety. That's kind of the bunch. Like that's why closed circuit, like a crit race, that's dangerous. But that's dangerous because you're around these other people, and you can get seriously hurt. You don't forget, you can get extremely hurt crashing just in a bunch race on a crit circuit, as you can doing out on the open roads. Obviously, an incident with a car is more likely to have serious consequences, but you can get extremely hurt doing both. So I guess coming back to the time trial, there's that third. So there's dual carriageway, single carriageway, and there's that third type of time trial with the closed circuit races. Like the crit races, the danger comes from interacting with other riders. These can be extremely dangerous too. And I think part of that's we're on closed roads, or we're on a closed circuit, therefore the stuff we're willing to do becomes even higher risk. One thing that is banned in cycling time trials is heads down riding. So you're not meant to ride with your head down. So you see a track rider doing team pursuit, they have very poor extremely, essentially zero visibility of what's happening in front of them, but those are extremely aerodynamic positions. So then people are looking to replicate those, and they adopt those positions out on the road. Which any sort of time trial you do, if you're doing heads down riding, that's extremely dangerous, and we should really try and not do that. I think of Stefan Kung, who crashed into a barrier and had a horrific incident, which thankfully wasn't worse. But that happens because of the position that riders adopt. The riders end up doing something that's more dangerous because the roads are safe. I can plonk my head down and not look where I'm going. Yeah, road racing as UCI road racing hasn't been great, for instance, either. You think, okay, closed roads, it's fine, but the speeds they're pushing on the descents, 2 years ago we had Gino Mader, Mario Fiore at the UCI Worlds. People are still dying, and it kind of highlights that there's no one change you can make that's gonna make riding safe. It's not just we need to move all time trialing to close roads, close circuit. Serious incidents still occur for those events. So just blanketly stating that this will fix the solution is okay. No, there's lots of moving parts involved, and yeah, we should always strive for things to be better and safer. But you can't just be like, okay, yeah, this is going to fix it, because we've seen with all types of racing that you think even getting off the road in general, just moving onto the track, people still have extremely serious incidents just racing each other on the track with super high speed that they're traveling at. Heads down riding, crashing into the rider in front of you after you've made the catch in the team pursuit, but you're not aware of it, from the Tokyo Olympics with the Danes crashing into the back of the GB train. We can do our best to make changes to the sport that make it safer. So obviously there's been the talk from Wout about reduced gears, and some people think that would help, some people don't think that would help, some people might think that'll make it worse. But constantly thinking, I think it's a good thing to think about. Okay, what could make the sport safer?